season tonight. Only if there's a God. And the Sixers get bounced from the playoffs with an embarrassing performance at home. Who's to blame? And where do they go from here? And the NFL schedule is out. Which are the best games and which of the best teams will be 0-1 after week 1? Let's go. What's going on, everybody? I'm Max Kellerman, and welcome to this just in a fast hour around the world of sports and how I see it. We start with Game 6 in Milwaukee. Celtics, Bucks tonight in Milwaukee. Let's get you ready. These two teams split the first 4 games of the series. Bucks won games 1 and 3. Means Boston won games 2 and 4, the latter after scoring 43 in the fourth quarter, that is. And then Giannis came up huge in a pivotal Game 5 in Boston, going for 40 with 11 boards to rally the Bucks down 9 through 3 quarters. But the dude who came through in the clutch, Jrue Holiday, blocked Marcus Smart and then stole the ball from Smart to close out the win. That's as clutch a performance in the playoffs defensively as you'll ever see. What a game by Jrue Holiday at the end there. Brian Windhorst with me live from Milwaukee. Windy, first, update on Robert Williams.
Yeah, this was a new piece of information today from Ime Udoka. He had an MRI within the last 24 hours, and it showed a bone bruise in that surgically repaired knee. Now, that was one that swelled up on him before Game 4. They shut him down. And so he is questionable for tonight, but it is not because of lingering issues from the surgery. It is because of this bone bruise. So obviously, elimination game, they are going to try to get him in there, but definitely worrisome for a guy who's very valuable to the Celtics.
Well, he's Time Lord. Can he just speed up or slow down time or do whatever it is he does? What's the Celtics mentality, Windy, heading into Game 6 tonight?
Yeah, so they believe that despite being down 3-2 in this series, that they have found some things that work against the Bucks. Specifically, some of their lineups. They've been able to generate some offense the last few games. And I don't disagree with them, Max, because they lost one game by 2 points and one game by 3 points. It is not a stretch to say if a couple of things went differently, this series would be over. The fact that they are facing elimination tonight is really upsetting to them, but they do not think that they are out of it. And it sounds like they are not a team that doesn't believe that they can win these next 2 games. We heard Doc Rivers last night say that he had come to the conclusion that his team wasn't good enough to beat the Heat. That's not the case with the Celtics. They think they're good enough to win these 2 games.
After a blockbuster trade that promised so much for Philly, the Sixers are already on vacation, bounced by the Heat you just mentioned. James Harden finished with 11 whole points and 2 shots in the entire second half. His teammate Joel Embiid, he had something to say about it after the game.
I'm sure, since we got him, everybody expected the Houston James Harden, but that's not who he is anymore. He's more of a playmaker. I thought, at times, could have been, as all of us, could have been more aggressive.
To be clear, you plan on still opting into your
I'll be here. Yeah, I'll be here. Whatever makes this team, whatever allows this team to continue to grow and get better and do the things necessary to win and compete at the highest level.
Playmaker? Playmakers make plays. Windy, your reaction to Embiid's comments?
I have to say, I don't ever remember a post-game press conference sessions being more entertaining than the game itself in the playoffs. But this was definitely the case. And here's something else, Max. I heard no lies. That is actually true, what Joel Embiid said. It was what we all saw, and he just laid it bare. He also talked about how he misses playing with Jimmy Butler. And you don't have to make a big leap to see that, Jimmy Butler was the best player in the series, okay? And for Jimmy Butler to play like that and James Harden to play the way he played, I'm sure Embiid was like, look, when I was thinking about winning a title, I was thinking about having a running mate who played like that. And now look, he's been gone 3 years. It was a completely different front office or an organization that did it. I mean, it's not exactly a simple, binary choice. But, for Embiid to lay that out like that, for Doc Rivers to say what he said about where he thought his team was in the series, is just an indication of how far away Philly is from, where they had dreamed of going when they, made this giant trade just a couple of months ago.
Or how about at some point backing your superstar player, Joel Embiid? They seemed to choose Simmons over him when they sent Butler and J.J. Redick packing. Those were Embiid's guys, right? They bring in Harden. If they bring in D'Antoni or sign Harden to a supermax, that would be more of an indication, no, Joel, we're doing everything for everyone but you. What do you think the Sixers hope for? What's with Harden? Do they want him to opt in? Do they want him to opt out? Do they want him to leave? Do they want to give him a supermax? What's their hope here?
Yeah, so there's three choices for Harden. One, he can opt into his contract, $47 million, huge amount of money, and just play out next year. Go to free agency, or he could ask for a trade with that opt-in. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but we're talking about a guy who's asked for 2 trades in the last 2 years, so I can't, let it go by without mentioning it. He could not opt in, and he'd just become an unrestricted free agent, and then the team could negotiate a salary, a new deal with him. That's what the Sixers are going to want, Max, because that way they can negotiate something less than the $47 million and build out a salary that allows them some maneuverability. And trust me, Daryl Morey has plans. He will have plans to try to get another star player in there, probably using Tobias Harris in a trade, but he needs Harden to maybe negotiate on that. And then the third option, and this is the one that I don't think will happen, but the one we all thought was going to happen a couple of months ago when the trade happened, that would be that Harden would opt into his contract and then extend 4 years off of that. That's where you get that $250, $260 million number. And I just cannot see a scenario where ownership, Josh Harris and David Blitzer, sign off on giving the player that they watched in this postseason $250 million.
On the radio this morning on KJM with Keyshawn and Jay Will, we were talking about it, and it seemed like it was a win for the Sixers when the trade went down because they got a superstar in James Harden, and they held on to Thibault, and they held on to Maxey, and they really didn't part with anything that was like indispensable. But looking at it now, even taking Ben Simmons out, could you trade Harden for a Seth and his $47 million, even if he opts in, for a Seth Curry, a relatively inexpensive Seth Curry, and 2 late first-round picks? You probably couldn't even get that right now. Right now, Brooklyn wins the trade even without Ben Simmons.
I would look at it the other way. Think of all of the deals that they could have made for Ben Simmons that weren't for James Harden. Tyrese Halliburton, for example, where they could have gotten 2 or 3 pieces younger that they could either keep and develop or flip again. That's the what if. But Daryl Morey was so focused on getting the guy he knows and getting the highest superstar player that he went for the home run. But you swing big, and you lead to potentially missing big as well.
Meantime, there are always heroes and goats, and not the goat as in the greatest of all time type of goat. The goat like the villain, right? And so who deserves the most blame? Was it James Harden? Or are Sixers fans looking at Doc Rivers? Well, Doc addressed his job security post-game. Check it out.
I don't worry about my job. I think I do a terrific job, and if you don't, then you should write it. Because I worked my butt off to get this team here. When I first got here, no one picked us to be anywhere. And again this year, the same thing. So if that's how anyone feels, write it, and I'm going to feel secure about it.
It's a results-based business, and that's
it is, but you don't do it every year. Every time you're wrong, should you lose your job? No. So it's the same thing, all right? But listen, if you believe that, then go with it. I know what I did this year, and I feel very good about that.
Man, I love me some Doc, Windy, and I have no problem with anything he said except when I got here, no one thought we could do anything. That's not true. People had high hopes for the Sixers and what might happen with Doc there and then Daryl Morey there. Is there a place where if he does lose this job, he makes sense as a head coach to you?
You thought I was exaggerating when I said the post-game interviews were more interesting than the game. If Doc Rivers and the Sixers part ways here, from what I understand in talking to folks in the league, the only place he would take a coaching job at this point would probably be the Los Angeles Lakers. That doesn't necessarily mean he would be the Lakers' top choice, although I have no doubt they would seek to, interview him for the job. But Doc has even indicated in the past he thought the Sixers job would be his last job. His long-term intention is to live in Los Angeles, I believe. So if he gets let go, I think the Lakers are on the horn pretty quickly to test his interest. And I think all other places he may respectfully say thanks, but no thanks.
Makes some sense for the Lakers, too, because LeBron can handle things, and you don't need a coach. Like, he might be the right kind of coach for that team. Thank you, Wendy. Let's check out some notable matchups.